Ferdinand's finances were looking a little better after that last job for the planetary government of Ramona. UR and Dak did some trading in town. Dak didn't find anything useful to trade for, but did acquire a hot tip, one which could eventually lead Ferdinand to the big score he was really after. But for now, it was only a vague clue, and would need to be followed up on. The robot UR traded for some goods that would only recoup their value if sold on other planets in the system. For some reason the robot seemed determined to encourage Ferdinand to leave Ramona. Perhaps it was some fault in the programming. Ferdinand realized that their recent battle with the haywire construction robots could have gone much worse for them if things had gone just a little differently. He and Vespasian spent their time training, determined to prepare themselves for the more capable antagonists they expected to face in the future. Marius and Amalia worked together to track down the gang of punks that had attacked the hangar. They successfully followed some of them to one of their hideouts, and reported the location back to Ferdinand. Amalia then had some extra time on her hands, which she spent having a nice chat with one of the locals. Nothing tangible was gained, but perhaps it would contribute to an improved reputation for Ferdinand's crew among the local populace, which could be useful in many ways. Meanwhile, Ferdinand decided they should attack the gang of punks in their hideout, hoping to either wipe them out, or convince them that Ferdinand's crew shouldn't be trifled with. They managed to infiltrate the punk hideout Amalia and Marius had found, without being spotted. Shortly, they came upon a group of 9 armed punks, traversing the industrial wasteland that served as their hideout. 2 of them appeared to be bestial mutants with brutal weapons, which would surely prove quite deadly in the hands of those ferocious beastmen. As the 2 groups approached each other, Ferdinand's crew were ready to attack. The plan was for Ferdinand, Vespasian, and UR-025 to advance and engage the enemy at close range, with their shorter-ranged weapons. Amalia, on their right, Dak, on their left, and Marius, in the center would provide long-ranged cover fire. The punks spotted the intruders, but Ferdinand's crew was ready for action and got the drop on them. Before the punks could even react, Dak fired on them from his elevated position, dropping one immediately. The additional rate of fire of his new rifle, combined with his improving skill with firearms, was paying off. Amalia fired at another punk with her single-shot rifle, but missed. Ferdinand, Vespasian, and UR all advanced toward the enemy, remaining in cover. Ferdinand noticed a peculiar item in the nearby toolbox, but he would have to ponder its meaning later. The punks all surged forward, but made sure to remain behind the cover of the pipes. They were not yet in range of any of Ferdinand's crew with their pistols. Vespasian had no clear shot through the fog, so repositioned himself to spread out a little from Ferdinand. The rest of the team opened fire on the advancing punks, but they all sheltered behind the pipes, obscured by the fog, and none were hit. One of the punks, however, became unnerved by the hail of fire, and fled. Dak and Vespasian decided to try a different strategy. They paused their firing, aiming where they knew the punks would need to break from cover if they wanted to press the attack. As the leader of the punks crossed over the pipes, Dak fired, but only grazed his target. But it was enough to make the leader duck back behind the pipes. Vespasian fired as the other punks continued the advance, but his shots missed. Amalia and Marius took shots from their longer range, but also missed their targets. Feeling a little exposed, Ferdinand backed away from the advancing enemy while firing at the punks moving up behind the nearby barrels, and he managed to take one of them down as he went. Due to his elevated position, Dak now had a clear shot at some of the advancing punks. He immediately fired at them, quickly dropping 2 of them, including one of the beastmen. Vespasian also caught a punk in the open, sprinting towards the barrels. Vespasian reacted quickly, gunning down the punk just before he was able to reach the cover of the barrels. The enraged beastman nearby charged towards Vespasian. Amalia wounded the ferocious mutant with a well-placed shot, slowing its advance. Ferdinand approached and tried to finish him off, but missed his shots. On the other side, the surviving punk moved forward to get into range and fired at Dak, but missed. While he fired at Dak, UR moved closer and fired back at the punk, gunning him down. Somehow undeterred, the punk leader broke cover to face off against the robot. The beastman, however, reverted to instinct and fled. Marius and Dak both fired on the leader advancing on UR, but couldn't land a hit. But UR didn't need the help. He kept walking toward the punk, firing as he went, and shot down his adversary in a hail of bullets. Though a few of the punks had escaped, Ferdinand's crew had beaten them convincingly. However, this was likely only a small group of them, and Ferdinand suspected he hadn't seen the last of these irritating punks. Especially considering that Ferdinand's crew plundered 6 credits, along with some ship parts worth another 5 credits, from the punk hideout. The punks were not likely to let that go. Afterward, Amalia spent a great deal of time exercising, hoping to improve her physical capabilities and be more of an asset in combat. The rest of the crew spent some time making friends among the locals, before getting back to work planning their next job.